In the third trimester of my pregnancy, I decided to divorce Dominic. While signing the agreement, he suddenly could hear the thoughts of the twin boy and girl in my belly. Brother, this wicked woman is pretending to be weak again. She deliberately pushed Mom down and now wants to blame someone else. Our blind father totally fell for it. He's heartbroken over her. He thinks his white moonlight is the one who saved his life, but in reality, it was our mom who rescued him back then. This woman took my mother's place just to scheme for our family's fortune, to support her kept man outside. Serves him right that Dad ended up being outmaneuvered by them, bankrupting the company and even losing a leg. Only my foolish mother would sell her jewelry to care for him in the hospital. Mom, run. Don't keep this stupid dad. The three of us can rely on each other. I couldn't hear inner voices, and had assumed he'd anxiously help up his white moonlight, leaving my heart utterly withered. But he pushed the white moonlight down to the ground with a backhand, his gaze icy. My child and wife, how dare you lay a finger on them? You. Dominic, what are you doing? Vanessa collapsed on the ground, clutching her wrist, tears streaming down her face like broken beads as she gazed tearfully at Dominic. I just wanted to help sister, she's about to give birth, standing must be exhausting for her. I watched her performance with cold detachment, my heart completely numb. Again. It's always like this. Whenever Dominic and I show any signs of reconciliation, Vanessa immediately appears, using her consummate acting skills to effortlessly sabotage our already fragile marriage. I'm exhausted. I reached for the divorce papers on the table, eager to put an end to this farce. But Dominic's hand stopped me, pressing down on the documents before I could touch them. He didn't even glance at Vanessa again. Those eyes that had always regarded me with impatience and detachment were now locked intensely on me, churning with turbulent emotions I couldn't comprehend. Oh ho, looks like Daddy's finally opened his blind eyes? Good push. Hit her again. Show her why flowers bloom so red. Mom, look. It seems Daddy Dummy's IQ just went online. I couldn't hear. All I saw was his hand pressing down on the divorce agreement, his knuckles turning white from the force. I thought he didn't want to divorce. It was for Vanessa, for the white moonlight in his heart, to punish me, the woman who stood in the way. My heart sank completely to the bottom. Dominic, enough. I spoke wearily, my voice hoarse. Let go. I'll leave with nothing. He shuddered, the storm in his eyes seeming to intensify. What nonsense are you spouting? His voice actually carried a hint of panicked tremble. Don't be scared, Mommy. If he dares to bully you, we'll hack his company. Brother, take it easy. We're still in Mommy's belly, we can't access the internet. Oh, I forgot. Then after we're done, we'll Photoshop all his handsome pictures into pig heads. Dominic's face shifted through a spectrum of colors, pale then flushed, until he finally looked like he was suppressing either laughter or fury. He released the divorce papers and instead grabbed my wrist firmly. Come home with me. His grip was strong yet deliberately gentle around my swollen belly. Half dragged, I found myself being pulled toward the exit. Dominic. Vanessa's shrill voice rang out behind him. My foot. I think I sprained my ankle, it hurts so much. In the past, Dominic would have immediately turned around and rushed to her side in a panic. But this time, he merely paused his steps without looking back. My driver is waiting outside, his voice was as cold as ice, he'll take you to the hospital. As for the medical expenses, my assistant will settle them. From now on, stay away from my wife. Having said that, he took my hand and walked out of that suffocating coffee shop without a moment's hesitation. Vanessa remained seated, her expression of fragility and pain instantly freezing into shock and fury. Dominic pushed me into the car, then leaned over to fasten my seatbelt. His movements were gentler than I'd ever seen before. The car drove off smoothly. As I watched the streets recede through the window, everything felt surreal. Dominic, what on earth was happening? Sit still, don't move. As soon as we got home, Dominic treated me like a rare treasure, carefully settling me onto the sofa. Then, he started bustling about. Pouring hot water, fetching cushions, even digging out pregnancy snacks, he laid them out one by one in front of me. I frowned as I watched him. This display of attentiveness felt unfamiliar, even unsettling. Now you know how to be attentive? Too late. Exactly, has he ever cared about Mom once during her entire pregnancy with us? Mom's morning sickness was taken care of by the nanny while he was busy stargazing with that awful woman. Scumbag. Idiot dad. Dominic's hand holding the cup trembled violently, spilling a few drops of boiling water onto his skin that instantly reddened. He seemed completely oblivious, just staring at me fixedly, his eyes filled with guilt and heartache. I'm sorry, he said hoarsely. In the past. I neglected you. I lowered my eyelashes and remained silent. Could a simple I'm sorry erase all the hurt? During my worst morning sickness, when I was vomiting uncontrollably, he was busy celebrating with Vanessa over her securing a minor project collaboration. I had leg cramps in the middle of the night, the pain keeping me awake. When I called him, it was Vanessa who answered, her syrupy voice saying, Dominic had too much to drink and is already asleep. The days and nights of disappointment and heartache had long since drained away the last of my passion. Dominic, I said calmly, let's talk about the divorce. No divorce, he nearly shouted. Then, immediately softening his tone, he added a hint of pleading. Let's not get divorced, okay? I was a jerk, I was blind before. Give me another chance. Oh, so you admit you were blind, huh? Just saying it isn't enough. You need to take real action. That awful woman still hasn't been dealt with. She definitely won't let this go quietly. That's right, what's the name of that pretty boy she's keeping outside? I think it's Chad? Some kind of fitness trainer. Every single penny that Chad spends was swindled from our family. Dominic's pupils abruptly contracted. He pulled out his phone, his fingers flying across the screen as if sending a message to someone. I watched his movements and sneered inwardly. Is he cleaning up Vanessa's mess again? Or comforting his unattainable love? I stood up, unable to bear this painful sight any longer. I'm tired and want to go rest in my room. He quickly put away his phone and nervously followed her. Let me help you. No need. I shook off his hand and walked straight to the bedroom. He froze in place, his tall figure appearing somewhat helpless and forlorn under the light. I shut the door, shutting him out. Leaning against the door, I slowly slid to the floor as tears finally began to fall uncontrollably. Why? Why offer me this fleeting, false tenderness just as I was ready to let go? Dominic, what exactly do you want from me? The next day, when I woke up, Dominic was already gone. Just as well, it saved us from having to face each other with mutual disgust. I was about to ask the housekeeper to prepare breakfast when the doorbell rang. She opened the door to find Tom, Dominic's personal assistant, standing outside. Madam, Tom said respectfully, handing me a file folder. The boss asked me to deliver this to you. Puzzled, I took it. Upon opening it, I found a thick stack of documents inside. The top one was a photo of Vanessa intimately posing with an unfamiliar man, a brawny figure exactly like those trendy fitness trainer types nowadays. Beneath the photo were the man's detailed records. Chad, 28 years old, unemployed, yet owned luxury cars and mansions, all funds traced back to a single account. The owner of that account was Vanessa. What shocked me even more was the content that followed. It was a jewelry design competition I had participated in 3 years ago. My design draft was accused of plagiarism at the time, which tarnished my reputation and completely ended my career as a designer. And now, this document clearly records that Vanessa bribed my assistant at the time to steal my design draft, registered the copyright first, and then accused me of plagiarism. The file also contains the assistant's handwritten confession and bank transfer records. The evidence is irrefutable. My hands trembled slightly as I held the documents. So the downfall of my career wasn't an accident, but Vanessa's carefully calculated scheme. But why would she do this? Just because I married Dominic? At that moment, Dominic walked in through the door, his steps hurried, his forehead glistening with a light sweat. "You saw everything?" He approached me, his voice tinged with nervousness. I looked up at him, my gaze complicated. "So what?" I asked. "You showed me these to prove what exactly?" "To prove you finally realized she's not the pure white lotus you imagined her to be?" He choked on my words, his face filled with bitterness. "I'm sorry," he apologized again, "it was my mistaken judgment, making you suffer so much. I promise it will never happen again." He reached out, trying to touch my face. I turned my head away. Suffering? It was far more than that. It was malice that destroyed my entire dream. I looked at him and asked word by word, "I can let all this go." "Dominic, I just need to ask you one thing. That year in the snow mountain, was it really her who saved you? This is the biggest knot between us. It's the root of all his indulgence and guilt towards Vanessa. It's a life-saving debt he can never repay. As long as this fact exists, Vanessa will always be special in his heart. And I will forever remain an outsider." Dominic fell silent. His silence was like a sledgehammer, smashing heavily against my heart. I laughed until tears streamed down my face. "See, this is the answer. In his heart, Vanessa remains that irreplaceable lifesaver." My heart completely died. "Let's get divorced. The one who saved me wasn't her." Just as I turned around, Dominic's voice came clearly from behind me. My footsteps faltered, thinking I must be hearing things. "Stupid daddy finally gets it. Hurry up and say it. Show the evidence now. This is killing me with anxiety. Mom's about to leave. If you don't speak up soon we'll become single-parent babies. Quick, take out that safety knot you've been treasuring. Mom made that with her own hands." Dominic stepped in front of me, his expression more solemn and urgent than I'd ever seen before. Carefully, he pulled something from the inner pocket of his suit, an object wrapped in velvet cloth. Layer by layer, he unfolded it. Inside lay a somewhat weathered jade amulet. The red braided cord had faded, but the lover's knot tied above it was uniquely distinctive, a design of my own making. My mind went blank with a sudden buzz. 5 years ago, during my graduation trip, I was sketching in the snow-capped mountains when a blizzard struck. I encountered a man, similarly trapped. He was burning with fever, delirious. I took care of him for 2 days and nights, giving him all the food and water I had. On the way down the mountain, I accidentally fell, and this piece knot I had woven myself, intended as a gift for my future husband, was lost in the snow. Later, I heard that Dominic, the heir of the Reed family, had been in danger on the snowy mountain and was rescued by a kind-hearted girl. And later still, I became Dominic's wife. Everyone said I was fortunate, but only I knew the truth. Dominic married me merely for a family alliance. The one he truly cherished in his heart was his lifesaver, Vanessa. I always thought the person I saved back then was just an ordinary hiker. Never did I imagine it would be Dominic. Even less did I expect that my identity would be stolen by Vanessa. "This safety knot pendant," Dominic's voice trembled, "I had it examined. The weaving technique is unique to your grandmother's hometown craftsmanship. In the entire city of A, no more than 3 people know how to make it. And Vanessa, she wasn't from that place at all." He raised his eyes, gazing at me with burning intensity. There was regret, relief, and the overwhelming joy of having found something lost. "So, the one who saved me back then was you. Lynn, it's been you all along." I stared blankly at him, at that piece knot pendant. The truth exploded in my mind like a thunderbolt. It turns out I was never the other woman. The person he wanted to repay his debt of gratitude to had always been me. All the misunderstandings and estrangement between us stemmed from a carefully calculated impersonation. I had always thought he didn't love me. He simply loved the wrong person. Covering my mouth, I broke into uncontrollable sobs. All the cold indifference and grievances endured over the years suddenly found their release in this moment. It wasn't absence of love. Just mistaken identity. This realization snapped the heartstrings I'd kept taut for 3 years. Darkness engulfed my vision as I completely lost consciousness. I woke up again in the VIP hospital room. Dominic was sitting by my bedside, his eyes bloodshot and his chin covered with dark stubble. When he saw me wake up, he immediately leaned over nervously. "You're awake? Do you feel any discomfort?" "Mommy's awake. You scared us to death." "Dumb daddy sort of made up for his mistake by staying here day and night." "Humph, that's more like it. Otherwise, we really wouldn't want him anymore." Dominic's expression became subtly complex upon hearing the baby's thoughts. He took my hand and gently kissed it. "The doctor said you fainted due to emotional stress and third trimester exhaustion. The babies are perfectly fine too." When he said the word babies, his voice carried an extraordinary tenderness and reverence. I looked at him with mixed emotions. The truth had come to light, yet the wounds inflicted couldn't be easily healed with just a simple "I'm sorry." "Dominic." I withdrew my hand. "Vanessa, how do you plan to deal with this?" I gazed at him calmly. This was my declaration of allegiance, but also my test. If he still harbored even a shred of pity for Vanessa, then it would truly be over between us. Dominic's eyes instantly turned cold. "She impersonated you and deceived me for 5 years. She schemed against you and ruined your career. She still has designs on my family's fortune, even wants our lives." With every word he spoke, the chill around him grew heavier. Yes. In the end, Daddy was driven to bankruptcy and had his legs broken, all because of her and that pretty boy conspiring together. That woman is downright vicious. Hearing this, the murderous intent in Dominic's eyes nearly overflowed. "I won't let her get away with this," he said resolutely. "She and that Chad embezzled public funds and engaged in insider trading. I've already had the legal team prepare the evidence. They'll spend the rest of their lives in prison." Hearing this outcome, the heavy weight that had been pressing on my heart for years finally lifted. I looked at him, this man I had loved for so long and resented for just as long. Now, at last, he had opened his eyes and returned to my side. "Dominic. The divorce papers." I paused. "Let's put them aside for now." He froze for a moment before overwhelming joy surged through him. He pulled me into a tight embrace, holding me so fiercely it felt like he wanted to meld me into his very bones. "Thank you, wife." His voice choked up, warm droplets falling onto the nape of my neck. "Yay. Mom and Dad made up. Told you so. Dumb dad is still salvageable. Then after we're born, should we be nicer to him?" "Depends on your performance." I leaned against his chest, listening to his strong heartbeat while feeling the joyful movements of our babies in my belly. Unable to help myself, I smiled. Perhaps I should give this foolish husband, and our family, another chance. "Dominic, please, just see me one more time, okay?" Vanessa's call came through, entirely expected. Dominic put the call on speaker, his icy male voice devoid of any warmth. "There's nothing left for us to discuss." "No. Dominic, let me explain. None of it is what you think. It's Lynn. She framed me." Vanessa's voice was shrill and hysterical. "She's jealous of me. Jealous that you treat me well. That's why she fabricated all that evidence." I sat nearby, leisurely peeling an apple, and nearly burst out laughing at her words. Is this woman insane? Still trying to pin the blame on my mom at this point? Did a donkey kick her brain or something? Dominic glanced at me, his gaze filled with reassurance and a hint of indulgence. He let out a cold laugh into the phone. "Forged? Vanessa, do you take me for a fool? Every single transaction between you and Chad, every hotel booking record, do you really think you can erase all traces? Moreover, 5 years ago on that snowy mountain, you didn't even know what brand of jacket I was wearing. How dare you claim you were the one who saved me?" The phone line fell deathly silent. After a long pause, Vanessa finally spoke in a venomous voice that seemed to crawl straight from hell. "Dominic, don't you dare regret this. Do you really think those things alone are enough to convict me? Let me tell you, the people behind me are far beyond your reach. With that, she hung up. I frowned. The people behind her? It's her lover, a real estate tycoon named Dennis. That old lecher has been coveting our family's real estate business for a long time. Vanessa is just a pawn he planted by Dad's side. They're planning to collude from inside and out to swallow up Dominic's corporation. Dominic's face darkened completely upon hearing this. He immediately dialed his assistant Tom's number. Investigate a real estate developer named Dennis, who is closely connected to Vanessa. Dig up all his dirty secrets. I want him to never recover. After hanging up, he looked at me with deep eyes. Don't be afraid, I'm here. I nodded and handed him the peeled apple. I'm not afraid. I knew that from now on, we were teammates fighting side by side. A storm of bloodshed in the business world was about to come. But this time I was no longer fighting alone. I looked at the man beside me, his sharply defined profile focused and cold. He's no longer that fool blinded by his white moonlight. He is the father of my children, my husband. The guardian deity of our family. Dominic acted swiftly. 3 days later, the financial news in City A exploded. Dennis's real estate company is suspected of tax evasion and illegal fundraising. Chairman Dennis has been taken away by police for investigation. On the news broadcast, the real estate tycoon who had been full of vigor just yesterday now sat handcuffed with an ashen face, being escorted into a police van by officers. Behind him, the backdrop screen cycled through intimate photos of him with different women in various settings. The most eye-catching among them was the group photo of him with Vanessa at a yacht party. Vanessa wore a revealing bikini, coiled around Dennis like a seductive serpent. Wow, what a major social disaster. That old pervert is done for, and Vanessa won't get away either. Dad's move to pull the rug from under them was brilliantly executed. Dominic turned off the TV and came to sit beside me. It's all settled now. His tone was indifferent, as if he had merely done a trivial thing. But I knew exactly how much effort he had expended these past few days to topple a deeply entrenched local tyrant like Dennis. I picked up the remote and switched to a prenatal music channel. What about Vanessa? I asked. With Dennis fallen, she's lost her greatest supporter. Dominic picked up the nutritional drink in front of me, stirred it with a spoon, tested the temperature, and only then brought it to my lips. The embezzlement case against her and Chad is ironclad. The trial begins next week. They're facing at least a decade behind bars. I opened my mouth and swallowed the nourishing drink he offered. Sweet and heartwarming. Good. An era had definitively come to an end. Vanessa's era. What lay ahead was a new age, for Dominic, me, and our babies. The door to the hospital room was knocked. The nanny pushed it open, followed by 2 men in suits. Sir, madam, Vanessa's parents are here. Dominic and I exchanged glances. Here they come. Vanessa's parents. Those ultimate parents who made selling their daughter their lifelong career. Dominic. Vanessa's mother rushed toward him the moment she entered, ready to perform her usual drama of tears, tantrums, and threats. Dominic deftly sidestepped, leaving her to stumble forward and nearly fall. Please restrain yourself. His tone was distant. There is no relationship between me and your daughter. Vanessa's father steadied his wife, looking at Dominic with an expression of deep distress. Dominic, how can you be so heartless? Vanessa followed you for 5 years after all. Have you forgotten how much she sacrificed for you during those 5 years? Sacrificed what? Sacrificed time to share a bed? Or would you rather put in the effort to find some young pretty boy outside? These 2 old things have faces thicker than a city wall. Dominic's expression grew several degrees colder because of the baby's inner voices. I set down the book in my hands and spoke slowly. Have you forgotten who it was that took the Reed family's $5 million check and personally promised to keep your daughter away from Dominic? Vanessa's parents turned deathly pale in an instant. You, what nonsense are you spouting? Vanessa's mother pointed at me, her finger trembling. When did we ever take money from the Reed family? I smiled. Never took any? I glanced at Dominic. Honey, if I recall correctly, you have the recording, don't you? Dominic nodded very cooperatively, took out his phone, and made a show of pressing play. Don't. Vanessa's father pressed down on his hand, breaking out in a cold sweat. Let's talk this out properly, let's talk this out properly. Dominic, Lynn, he put on a servile smile, we know Vanessa was wrong, she was blinded by greed and offended Lynn. But she's still young after all. You grown-ups are magnanimous, so please forgive her this once. We promise we'll discipline her properly from now on. Spare her? So she can come out and harm others again? Dream on. Someone like him deserves to rot in prison for life. I said slowly, spare her? Sure. Vanessa's parents' eyes lit up. Dominic also looked at me in confusion. I stroked my belly with a gentle smile. Just turn back time and give me back the 3 years she destroyed. Make her personally endure every grievance I suffered because of her. Then I might consider letting her off. Vanessa's parents' smiles froze on their faces. This is impossible. Yes, I said, my smile fading bit by bit, that's impossible. So, what gives you the right to demand that I forgive her? Your daughter is a treasure, but my career and my life deserve to be trampled by her? My voice was not loud, but every word struck deep. Vanessa's parents were left speechless by my words, their faces turning pale and then flushed with anger. Get out, Dominic spat coldly. Disappear from my wife's sight before I call security. Vanessa's parents still wanted to say something, but under Dominic's icy glare, they eventually slunk away in disgrace. The hospital room finally fell silent again. Dominic walked over to me and gently pulled me into his arms. You've been through so much, he said, kissing my forehead. That was really impressive just now. I couldn't help laughing at his words. Mom's amazing. Total boss energy. This is the true mistress of the Reed family. Absolutely domineering. Anyone who dares bully Mom in the future, will make Dad unleash the dogs on them. Dominic listened to the baby's inner voices, the smile at the corners of his lips deepening. He lowered his head, gazing at my belly with eyes so tender they could melt. You two little ones are quite the flatterers. I froze. You, who are you talking to? Dominic also froze. Did he just let it slip? The atmosphere instantly turned tense. Dominic looked at me, his eyes darting around with an extremely expressive face. Oh, seems like dumb daddy got exposed. He can actually hear us talking? Since when did this start? It was the day we were supposed to sign the divorce papers when he suddenly gained the ability to hear them. Otherwise, why do you think his IQ suddenly went online? So that's why. I was wondering what made him suddenly change his ways. Although I couldn't hear, Dominic's ever-changing expression gave me a pretty good idea. I pointed at my belly, then at him. You can hear them? Dominic fell silent. That expression was as good as an admission. I took a deep breath, trying to process this fantastical reality. My husband could hear the thoughts of my unborn twins. And my babies seemed to know everything. So, I spoke with difficulty, your sudden kindness toward me isn't because you've had an epiphany. Is it because you heard their thoughts? You learned the whole truth? Dominic looked at me, his face screaming desperation to survive. Not entirely. He hurriedly explained. I admit, at first it was because I heard their thoughts that I realized how terribly wrong I was. But Lynn, my feelings for you aren't fake. He hesitated, finding it difficult to speak. I've liked you for a long time. I thought I loved the person who saved me. TSK, now he's confessing? How nauseating. But somehow, it feels a little touching. What's going on? I was torn between laughter and tears by the babies, both through Dominic's expression and Dominic himself. This world is truly magical. You like me? I raised an eyebrow. What do you like about me? That I'm like a block of wood, meekly submitting to everything? Or that I never cause you trouble, always making way for you and your white moonlight? Dominic was left speechless by my retort, his handsome face flushing red. He stammered for ages but couldn't muster a proper sentence. In the end, he could only look pleadingly at my belly, as if to say, "Little ancestors, help me explain." "Brother, Daddy seems to be asking us for help." "Ignore him, let him figure it out himself." "Can't even say what he likes about Mommy?" "So lame." Dominic's face grew even darker. Watching him frustrated yet helpless like this, the last trace of gloom in my heart completely dissipated. I reached out and pinched his cheek. "All right, I'll stop teasing you. For the baby's sake, I'll forgive you this time." However, I changed my tone. While the death penalty may be spared, living punishment is unavoidable. Starting today, you are the exclusive servant for us three, mother and twins. On call anytime, enduring all hardships without complaint. Any objections? Dominic froze for a moment, then a radiant smile bloomed across his face. He nodded vigorously, like a puppy that just got a bone. No problem at all. Mission guaranteed to be accomplished. Ever since Dominic was exposed, the atmosphere in our home has become somewhat bizarre. For instance, when I craved cake from that shop in the southern part of town late at night. Before I could even speak, just a thought crossed my mind. I really want some cake, the kind that's sweet with a hint of sour. Mommy wants to eat. Daddy, go buy it now. The next second, Dominic, who had been sound asleep beside me, would immediately spring up from the bed. Honey, you want cake? I'll go buy it right away. Then without caring that it was 3 a.m., he'd throw on clothes and rush out. Or another example, during a prenatal checkup, the doctor said I was slightly iron deficient. Before I could even think about how to supplement it. To replenish iron, you should eat more pork liver and spinach. But pork liver is so gamey, and spinach is so bitter. Mommy doesn't like eating them. Then what should we do? The baby needs nutrition. Stupid daddy. Hurry up and think of something. It's time to prove your worth. So that very evening, a steaming bowl of pork liver and spinach soup appeared on our dinner table, rich in color, aroma, and flavor, completely devoid of any metallic or bitter taste. Dominic stood there with dark circles under his eyes, gazing at me with an expression begging for praise. I consulted a Michelin 3-star chef and spent all afternoon perfecting this. Try it, I promise it's delicious. Such incidents became too numerous to count. Dominic practically turned into a mind reader for me and the babies. No, scratch that, he was even more perceptive than a mind reader. He became the exclusive wish-fulfilling machine for me and the babies. From initial shock, to gradual acceptance, and now, a sense of entitlement. The employees at Dominic Group noticed that their CEO had changed. The once cold and ruthless workaholic, who had eyes only for his job, had transformed into a family man who clocked out on time every day and never worked weekends. All meetings were scheduled as much as possible in the mornings. All social engagements that could be declined were turned down. On the rare occasions when he couldn't avoid one, he would bring me along. Then, under the astonished gazes of all his business partners, he peeled shrimp for me, served me dishes, and took care of me with meticulous attention. Someone joked privately that the boss had become a completely different person. Upon hearing this, Dominic simply smiled faintly. I'm just making up for the mistakes I made in the past. My wife and children are more important than any business. When these words reached my ears, my heart felt as if soaked in warm water, utterly softened beyond measure. The due date is getting closer. My belly is as big as a ball, and moving around is becoming increasingly difficult. Dominic simply moved all his work back home, staying by my side without leaving for a moment. One evening, as I caressed my belly, feeling the occasional movements inside, I softly asked him, Dominic, will you still be able to hear them after they're born? Dominic was massaging my swollen calves when he paused at my words. He looked up at me with gentle eyes. I don't know. But it doesn't matter if I can't hear anymore. Because now, I've learned to listen with my heart. He held my hand and placed it over his heart. Listen here. Everything this says is, I love you. The labor pains came suddenly in the dead of night. Dominic was even more nervous than me, his hands trembled as he carried me rushing to the hospital. The entire hospital was alerted. The best obstetricians and midwives had long been standing by, fully prepared. I was wheeled into the delivery room. Dominic insisted on accompanying me, but I firmly refused. Mom, you can do it. We're about to meet soon. Brother, I'm a little nervous. Is that clueless dad outside reliable? Don't worry, he's booked out the entire hospital with the world's top equipment and doctors. If he dares to be unreliable, we'll take him apart once we're out. Dominic stood outside the delivery room, listening to the baby's inner voices, alternating between tears and laughter like someone with a split personality. The surrounding nurses looked at him with expressions reserved for the mentally disturbed. The labor process was arduous, yet I felt an overwhelming sense of strength. Because I knew the person I loved was guarding me just outside the door. Inside my womb, 2 little lives were cheering me on. After what felt like an eternity, with 2 loud cries piercing the air, the world finally fell silent. Congratulations, it's a very healthy pair of boy and girl twins. Drenched in sweat, I lay on the bed, watching the nurse bring over 2 wrinkly little beings, and tears instantly welled up in my eyes. Dominic rushed in. He first looked at me to make sure I was okay, then, with trembling hands, turned to look at the 2 babies. Gently, he touched the little boy's cheek. Hey! Who's this big guy? He's kinda handsome. Dominic froze. He heard it. He could actually still hear it. He reached out to touch the little girl's hand again. Big brother, he's touching me. Is he that dumb, Dad? Seems like it. Looks a bit dumber than I imagined. Dominic was left speechless and stunned. This business tycoon, who had just experienced the most intense moment of his life, now wore an expression that could only be described as utterly priceless. He looked at me, then at the 2 children, his face filled with the dazed confusion of who am I, where am I, and why has my life turned out this way? Seeing him like this, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. He snapped out of it, looked at me, and laughed too. He came over, leaned down, and planted a deep kiss on my forehead. Welcome, my little ancestors. And thank you, my wife. From then on, besides me, his wife, his life gained 2 bullet screen commentators who could ruthlessly roast him anytime, anywhere. I think his future days will be very, very lively indeed. 1 year later. Daddy, silly. Just learned to talk. Daughter Ava pointed at Dominic, who was clumsily changing diapers, and uttered a few words in her milky voice. Little sister is right. He even put the diaper on backward. So silly. Their son Jasper, who had already mastered crawling, sat nearby with a serious expression, silently agreeing in his heart. Dominic took a deep breath, reminding himself that they were his own children, he couldn't just abandon them. He fumbled to change the diaper, picked up his daughter, and plastered an ingratiating smile on his face. Ava, Daddy's not stupid, Daddy loves Ava the most. Ava completely ignored him, turning her head to reach out her little hands toward me. Mommy, hold me. I smiled and took our daughter from his arms. Dominic looked at our son with a defeated expression, trying to salvage some dignity. Jasper, come to Daddy. Jasper glanced at him and silently crawled to my other side, hugging my leg. I don't want to play with an idiot. Dominic froze completely. Ever since these 2 little ancestors were born, his status at home had plummeted. Once they started talking, it became even more outrageous. Their mouths uttered the cutest words, but their hearts spewed the harshest critiques. Ironically, only he could hear them. As a result, our daily life was always filled with all sorts of dramatic scenes. For example, Dominic was in the middle of a cross-border video conference, negotiating with foreign partners with a stern face. His son and daughter were playing right at his feet. Daddy looked so pretentious like this. Yeah, last night he was so scared of the thunder that he hid in mommy's arms. On the other end of the video call, their esteemed business partner Dominic's expression instantly cracked, his ears turning visibly red at lightning speed. For example, on my birthday, Dominic meticulously prepared a candlelit dinner and 999 roses. He knelt on one knee, gazing at me affectionately. "Honey, I love you." Wow, what a cliché scenario. He said the exact same thing last year, zero creativity. Dominic's temple twitched with a visible vein, but he persevered through the procedure. He produced the prepared diamond necklace. This necklace isn't as pretty as the one Mom bought for herself at the auction last time. Dad's taste leaves much to be desired. That night, he locked himself in his study and spent the entire night poring over a pile of jewelry design sketches. Although life is always turned upside down by these two little ones, Dominic enjoys every moment of it. He had missed out on 5 years of my life. Now, he wants to spend the rest of his time making up for it. At night, when the two little ones finally fell asleep, Dominic hugged me from behind, resting his chin on my shoulder. "Honey, they said in their hearts today that you're the gentlest and most beautiful mom in the world." I smiled. "What about you?" I asked, "What do they say about you?" Dominic hesitated for a moment before replying somewhat indignantly, "They say I'm a lucky idiot. That I used up all my fortune to marry you." I turned around and kissed him on the lips. "They're right. You really are a lucky idiot favored by fortune. As for me, how incredibly fortunate I am to have my idiot husband and two adorable little commentators. Our life as a family of 4 will be long. But I believe every day will be filled with sunny weather."